So I will start our conversation with you, Prime Minister Trudeau. Lovely to see you again. We were together yesterday in Montreal. My question to you is, how can developed countries facilitate long-term investment to support the SDGs?
Well, I think one of the first things that we have to recognize is that there is an imperative for all of us to be part of the solution. The time where Western countries could sort of sit back and say, oh, we can give a little bit through charity or development and the world will unfold as it should, is now gone. We need to be much more actively engaged and indeed creative about how we pull together solutions that are going to address climate change, move low-income economies towards greater prosperity, lift people out of poverty, as we've seen over the past decades around the world, but there's much more to do. So the first thing is create a sense of optimism and hope, first, that it can be done. In developed economies, in Western economies, you are seeing a lot of people throwing up their hands and saying the problems are too big for us to tackle. And instead, demonstrating the real results that have been achieved is a key part of it. But being clear-eyed about the real challenges we're facing. That's why this year Canada is president of the G7. And what we chose to do is bring together for the first time finance ministers and international development ministers to talk about development financing, to talk about new approaches to development that are actually going to draw in more on the private sector, draw in more in creative ways, and recognize that there are significant amounts of global capital out there looking for places to invest. The challenges around risk, the challenges around not knowing what is a good investment are all over the place, and I know friends such as Larry Fink are going to talk about it in the next panel. But what can we do as governments to sort of de-risk and encourage the flow of capital to projects that need it in places that will see the biggest transformation for minimal amounts of capital? That's what Christine was talking about in terms of not just financing where you think you can get a return in a few years, but actually looking at where your investments can go the furthest. And that's where we've been very interested in the Global Infrastructure Hub that was started a few years ago in Australia. We've decided that we are going to open an affiliate in Toronto that will be very much focused on connecting that global capital to specific projects, to look at how we can de-risk them, how we can get that money flowing quicker and more efficiently. I mean, the amount of layers before global investments arrive are massive, and Canada happens to have a significant expertise in building infrastructure around the world, whether it's our pension funds, our private capital, or our engineering firms, or just our engagement around the world. These are things that we've been able to do. We're doing it domestically. We're recognizing that even in a country like Canada, there are significant infrastructure gaps where investing in green infrastructure, investing in public transit, investing in roads and bridges and commercial infrastructure are essential to both create good jobs in the short term, but create prosperity in the medium term and in the long term that allows for more inclusive growth, more real and fair chance for everyone to succeed. So that approach that we have is something that we've very much been engaged in. I've sat down over the course of the year with a number of small island developing states to specifically talk about the need for climate resilient infrastructure and to look at how governments and international bodies can facilitate the flow of investment that is going to make a huge difference in the lives of people in vulnerable states around the world. So this idea, first of all, that it can be done, that it's within our grasp, and that it should be done, are things that we're seeing a much more openness to around the world. And the more we draw people into creating those economic opportunities for entrepreneurship around prosperity and growth that goes through roads and bridges and hospitals and schools and energy grids. These are the kinds of things that I'm very excited about, and certainly we're going to keep working on. And if I can give a shout out to our permanent representative here, Marc-André Blanchard, who's been working very, very hard with many of you in this room to try and really secure those solid flows of private capital into more vulnerable places where we will collectively see the biggest returns in terms of global prosperity and opportunities for all.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Trudeau.